Hey, what's up, you guys? My name is Tim, and you are whoever you are, so hi. Let me tell you a story. 60 years ago, on the other side of planet Earth from Madison, Wisconsin, there were two shepherds in isolated, kind of like far-off desert. And so like actual shepherds, like they were herding sheep. And they were herding sheep along these kind of cliffs, these desert cliffs that went down to like a riverbed that had dried up. And one of the sheep had crawled down one of the cliffs and like was kind of the edge and a little bit over the edge. And they were totally freaked out, like because they thought their sheep was going to fall over the side. So they started, you may think this is kind of dumb, but they started throwing rocks, but beyond the sheep to try and like get it to come back. So the rocks were like going over the cliff on the other side, trying to get the sheep to come back. And the rocks were kind of like tumbling down the cliff, and they heard one of the rocks, like it went down into a hole kind of in the side of the cliff, and they heard the sound of like pottery and glass breaking. And they're like, what on earth is that? And so they ended up crawling to the edge of the cliff where the sheep was and making it go back. But then they went over and like wanted to find out where had the rock like broken pottery or glass or whatever. And so they found this kind of like cave in the side of the cliff that the rocks had gone into. And in the cave, they found the rocks they had thrown, and the rocks had broken these like pots, these big, huge clay pots. And inside of the pots, can you guess what was in there? Holy moly. They were like ancient scrolls of the Bible. So this was in 1948, and I have pictures here of some of these ancient scrolls that were found in these pots. So these are, what you're looking at here are some of the oldest like manuscripts of the Bible that exist at all right now. So these manuscripts are about 2,300 years old. So the Bible's really old, you know? And of course there were manuscripts that weren't in caves and pots because, you know, we have like copies of the Bible sitting on your shelf. You probably have some like in your hands in a room. But these were in the room where you're sitting, I mean. But these were some of the most ancient manuscripts of the Bible ever found. Now here's the thing, is that that's cool and that's kind of interesting, and it's weird that shepherds can throw rocks at a cliff and like find ancient manuscripts of the Bible. But who really cares? You know what I mean? Like, do you spend any of your time reading any other book that's 3,000 years old? Like, why? That's like cool to like watch on the History Channel or whatever. But like, when it comes to how you spend your time, do you want to like hang with your friends, play video games, or read a 3,000-year-old book? Like, I wonder, you know, no contest. So the Bible's kind of interesting or whatever, but really, like, why do we really need to read this thing? Can't you just leave that for like some other people to do? And here's the thing, is that if you're interested in being a follower of Jesus or trying to follow God in your life, it actually really is important that you try and figure out what this ancient book is all about. And here's a way of thinking about it. I had a friend when I was growing up. His name was Aaron. And Aaron had no clue who his dad was. His dad had like totally split off the scene before he was ever born, like when his mom was pregnant. And as it turned out to be the case, his mom didn't actually even know like his dad very well. And so Aaron never knew his dad, never really knew who he was, never contacted him or anything. I knew Aaron when he was in high school and I was in high school. And it totally tore him up. When he was in high school, he was always like wondering like, man, where did I come from? You know, like, who am I? What's my background or my history? And he had no sense of like who he was, and it really bothered him. And it kind of kept him from being able to feel like a kind of a whole person as he tried to be like grow up and become an adult and figure out what it was, what he was supposed to do with his life or whatever. And in many ways, that story always kind of comes back to me of what it means to, you know, say you want to follow God or say you're kind of interested in Jesus, but yeah, reading the Bible, yeah, not so much. The Bible is kind of like finding out who your family is. The thing is when you follow God and when you say, you know, I want to follow more, learn more about Jesus and following him, it's kind of like learning your family history. It's kind of like finding out that you're a part of this family, this huge, long family with a long, amazing story that you never knew about before. And the Bible, you may think of it as a book of rules or whatever, but it's one huge storyline about a family. And that family tells the story of what God has been up to rescue our world and to rescue us from all of the messed up stuff inside of us and that we do to each other. So here's a way to think about it. I've got like a, you can probably kind of tell what kind of picture album this is just by looking at it. It's a picture album of a little girl named Dylan. Now, I actually don't know Dylan. I just picked this photo album off a friend's desk as I was walking here to shoot this film. But this is actually a good example because, I actually don't know any of the people in these pictures. And for many of you, you might feel kind of like, this is what it's like to read the Bible. Like, why should I care about these people? I don't know them. They look like nice people, but I don't know their story. But what if you were to find out that these people were actually your relatives and that their life story actually has all kinds of interesting connections to yours, and the reason why you are here today and why you live today is because of these distant relatives that you just discovered? If that was the case, you would love to look at this picture album, and you'd find out like who their story is and like who they are and why that affects your life today. And reading the Bible is kind of like that. It's kind of like picking up an ancient photo album of this family history, and you find out that your story is totally interwoven with the stories of these people. And it takes time, it takes effort, because you don't know everybody in the storybook. You have to learn who's in the photo album. But as you learn things about yourself, because the people in this story, the story of the Bible, man, they've had experiences with God that just will blow your mind. They've learned things about God that would take like a lifetime to learn. And you can just learn it in an afternoon by reading through some of these stories. You learn kind of answers to questions about like why we're here on planet Earth, like what this whole big story is about why like humans do such messed up things to each other, why you have all that messed up stuff in you, that like you don't want to do, but you end up doing it to your friends or your family or whatever. The family history of the Bible gives us answers to all those kinds of things, and it tells us where the story is going and why God cares about you so much. So, yeah, the Bible is an ancient book. It's like about 3,000 years old. And yeah, two shepherds found some ancient manuscripts, and that's kind of interesting. But if you want to follow God, the Bible is your storybook. And there's just no way to replace learning about yourself, learning about God, learning about why you should care about being involved with other followers of Jesus. And the only way to get at those kinds of issues and figure out what you're supposed to do with your life is to learn your family history. And that's what reading the Bible is all about. So, whatever form it takes for you to read the Bible. Some of you like reading, some of you probably hate reading. I didn't really like reading when I was in middle school or high school for that matter. But I did always like talking about interesting questions or stuff that really mattered with my friends. So here's the thought. Maybe reading the Bible by yourself is hard, but right now you're in a room with people and you're getting together to talk about like questions about life that matter, things you care about, and the Bible. I hope this is at least kind of a helpful way to think about it. I've found taking kind of like new steps, initiative to really like read the Bible even when I don't want to. Over the years, I've learned incredible things about myself and about God and about other people. And it comes by just sitting down and getting familiar with the photo album and reading these ancient, amazing stories about our family and about God. So I hope this gives you some food for thought and some things to talk about with your group right now. So cool. Have a good day.